Hi everyone and welcome to Our Art Therapy Life. My name is Catherine. I'm the owner and founder of Cutout Collage and I'm an art therapist.
Hi everyone, my name is Jenn. I'm the founder of Belly Eye Art Therapy and I am an art therapist too.
Amazing.
This is our show.
I feel like, yeah. Do you want us to give a little intro into what we're talking about today? Because I feel like we've done loads of different topics and this one feels a little bit different. If you know, it's got a different flavor to it, which I like.
Yeah. I was hoping that we could do I know you and I have been brainstorming of a lot of how-to lists, what can we give listeners, viewers to do that are coming straight out of grad school. And so hopefully we can kind of focus on that based on our own experiences, kind of where we hit stumbling blocks or roadblocks or just smacked in the face by obstacles.
That's more correct for me, I think. Definitely you think it's all plain sailing and then
oh my God. Well, even before the show when you were like, it feels nice to make art. I was I turned off my phone all weekend. I didn't have any tech, not even the TV, nothing for 48 hours. Oh
that's
my
wild.
God. It was so nice. I woke, I went to have a nap and because I don't have my phone, I slept until from 2 in the afternoon until midnight. And then I got up and I was like, I'm just going to make art. And it felt so good. I'm like, I haven't done this in so long.
That's wild. No, I think it's so true. I think when you come out of university, it's so interesting actually. I was literally talking to someone about this today. But I can go into that in a minute. Yeah, when you come out of university, you sort of jump on what you think you need to do in getting across everything and being in every space and getting on in every group and every special interest group and discussion. And you spread yourself across so many things that actually having someone help me understand where to put my energy would have been so helpful.
I know.
Because that's what happened after 6 months of coming out of uni. What you just described as that nap, I just ended up doing that every week. So I was just headbutting into everything and throwing myself across so many things that then I would just crash and couldn't figure out where to place myself and where to prioritize things at all.
Totally. And I think that is reinforced with all these messages we hear coming right out of the gate.
I think it goes across art therapy and entrepreneurship, both of our subjects, because it's so tempting, and I did it myself even when people were telling me not to eventually, is to go across everything so that you can be, that people, you think that's the best way to kind of get people to know you is to be everywhere and to be doing everything. But actually, the journey is going to be very short-lived if you do it that way.
I mean, it works, but at what cost?
Yeah, or it's not a bad thing to be good at lots of stuff. But if you start to understand how to place your attention in certain places and how to narrow some of those things down, I think it'd be much better. I think my brain's already going into the conversation that I had earlier with someone who's thinking about doing art therapy, which is quite interesting. But yeah, how did you experience when you first came out of university? What was let's start there, how we experienced it.
Yeah.
Versus where we are. Yeah.
Because I was thinking that too. I'm how did I get to a point where I am not privileged, but I'm in a place where I can focus versus coming out of the gate when the messages are I wrote a bunch down.
Oh, cool.
Must work your way up.
Right.
This is the real world.
Aye.
You have to get your foot in the door. Need 5 years experience to qualify for an entry-level job.
Okay, I'm coming back to that one with a vengeance. Yeah.
Be more realistic and actually practice what you preach. So instead of talking about social justice in your downtime, you need to be more jaded. Was my favorite.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, come on.
Oh, and then the last one that's kind of the nail in the coffin, so to speak. You are very naive.
Oh my gosh, I want to swear and scream so much. Yeah. No, there's a couple of those that are just, it's so funny that we are different countries and some of those almost to the word were the same things that I heard. The one about 5 okay, before I jump into that one about 5 years, because that is a big like trigger point for me. Which ones of those, like, explain some of maybe some of the stories behind when people were telling you these things or you experienced some of that?
Yeah. Okay. So context.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I graduated, I went to Australia. So that was different. I didn't really hear any of these things because I was like, F everyone, I'm making my own path. So I was already like in a different headspace.
See you later. I'm getting on a plane.
I was like, bye, you can't stop me. I'm gonna go work on a dairy farm.
Flipping heck. I love that. Like, get away from the noise. Well, like we both did it. It's just like you can't, you need to just escape initially if you can.
Oh, literally. It was amazing. But then I found art therapy work through that. And it was like through building connection and talking to people. And then we would just start our own art therapy groups. Like it was amazing. And then like we met and we went to conferences, like whatever. So that doesn't count. But when I came back, when I came back to something more realistic, like traditionally after grad school, and it was so hard to find work. And a lot of it was like my parents afraid that I'm not going to like get anywhere with all this money I spent on my graduate program. And it's just like, you have to get your foot in the door. You have to get your foot in the door. You have to get your foot in the door, meaning like take anything. And I was like,
literally, right?
I refuse. I refuse to work case management. Like, that's fine. People do it and that's amazing. We need them, but I refuse. I do not want to be a case manager. I do not want to be jaded as hell after like 6 months. Like, I just don't have it.
Yeah.
And then like, I finally got into kind of like more of like a business structured job. Like it was a women's treatment facility, but they were so burnt out. They were so jaded. The system was very, very broken. And so me coming in like excited and like so bright and like, yes, I know art therapy works. I think it was just too much of a mirror and way too triggering for their own stuff that was coming up. And so throughout the year that I worked there, they just kept trying to put me in a box, in a smaller box, in a smaller box, in a smaller box.
Yep.
And it was like with punishment.
Right.
And so everything was like, you're too naive. You're not jaded. This is the real world. Don't talk about social justice. That's not realistic. Set boundaries. You need to be this. You need to do that. Your clients are failing because of you. Da, 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 da. Don't incorporate the art. That's not this program. No one talked to Jenn about art. Like, it was just so, like, punishing to my soul, like, really soul wounding. And, like, it doesn't need to be that way. Like, I thought, like, I just felt like I needed to stick it out for so long to, like, I don't know, prove to myself, prove to society, prove to the world, prove to my resume. But, like, the cost was I was not well when I left. Like, I was essentially, like, my body forced me out of that job. So, yeah, a lot of it just like came around this
big one.
broken system. And same thing, this like voice of like, you need the year experience on your resume to be worthy.
That's made me think, that's connected me so perfectly to a memory that a few of us on my program talked about, was this idea that when you come out, jobs are scarce. You need to take anything that comes up. And I remember the look that I was given by, not this, I don't think it was our tutors. I think there was like a lecturer that came in to do a talk about kind of, we had like one lecture about when you graduate basically. And this is not a diss on my organization. I had a very good training program. They just didn't have time to do this kind of thing. It needed to be, I think I should have thought to maybe do a business program or something. But anyway, we didn't get that sort of training except for this lecture about like, you know, what are you going to do in 6 months when you graduate? And they were talking about, this first year, like you will probably have to work for free was a phrase I heard. And you should just take jobs and get experience. And I was like, no, I don't agree with that. And there was one guy in a year above me actually, who was talking about, I think I was in second year the first time I heard this talk, to be fair. So I think we got it twice. And he was saying like, yeah, it's just a part of like who we are. Like we have to work for free for a year. And I just like, do you know when you feel like it was the red mist, but it wasn't even the red, it was crimson. It was so, I was just like, how is no one freaking out about the fact that this guy is just telling us to just accept anything and do anything because we're so desperate? And it's like, no, if we go out into the world, there's a reason why we're not as established as some of the other programs. It's because we're younger. etc. There's, we're still building our evidence base and all of that, but also because so many of us just say like yes to anything. I can't work in primary schools as an art therapist. I don't have enough experience and I don't want to. And that's okay. And I think the biggest thing I ever say to anyone who like comes to a workshop and is like, oh, I'm thinking about art therapy. I'm not sure, whether I want to do it, this, that, and the other. Where do you suggest I start? Or what? It's just like, I always say to people, it's okay as part of the program, as part of your learning or investigation or whatever, when you first get into this sort of work, to really start to notice what you like and what you don't. And the fact that you don't have to just take, go on to these really difficult interview processes for a job with a client group that you don't want to work with. Like, hold out. Don't just jump in and fall in. And I think, when you were saying that, I was just like, I remember so strongly, like actually being told with someone at the front of our lecture saying like, you will probably just, and I'm not saying like be so obsessed with one particular thing that you never experiment or push yourself or try and grow. But if you know that's absolutely not the direction you want to go in, but it's the only art therapy job available, don't feel the pressure to take it. Just because you want a title, like do something else, do something your client group adjacent. I think that was a big one for me. I just, all the other jobs I've had around art therapy, sort of before it, alongside it, and after it, have been community development based or like programs and activities based, because I love group work. So I thought, okay, I can't be an art therapist right now 100%, but I can develop group programs because my group thing is my I love it. I live for it. But it's like, and that just came from someone else suggesting to me, saying to me at the beginning of graduating, this is something you like and are good at, or at least have some skills in that you could grow. So don't worry too much about the title. And if that's like the only thing people could take away from today, is just like thinking wider around the role is really helpful.
Yeah.
I don't know where I went and landed. But what you said about not taking anything made me, that
well,
really
it's like interesting because that was like your approach. And I think that's so smart, is to like collect skills while you're looking. And then like my approach was a bit different, where it was like, I just need money. So my fallback is like, I've bartended and served for years. So I did that. And then I built up like my social media presence and then like the voice of art therapy in community and just like talking about it. But that was like my passion, was like Belly I started as a project to advocate for art therapy because one, people barely know what it is. And so that was like my passion, and that was just expanding and growing that way. And then I met people through talking about it. And then it was like, oh, would you do this? Would you do that? And it just like slowly kept expanding until when I left that job, I was like, I guess I'm going private practice so I can make my own hours. But then I like had built up enough skill at that place. Like there was some good that came out of it because it was like so quick and everything was just like in the now. Like I did build up a lot of skills. So like I was able to then like jump in and do private practice. But even like private practice, like it takes a lot to build up, especially in our field, because it's not as well known. So there's like a lot of advocacy for us, a lot of like education around it. But like it takes time. But like I just want to tell people too, like don't give up. Do not give up and tune out the negativity. It's just fear. Don't listen to the fear. It's just fear.
Oh, totally. And it makes me circle back to what you said about these 5 years, that was literally what we would, everyone talks about over here. Everyone, a lot of people talk about over here, is it's like, don't worry, it's like 5 years of hell and then it'll work itself out. And I'm like, what? Okay. And then, what a statement.
But by the time you get to the job that you're really passionate about, you're so burnt out and your nervous system can't handle it because you went through 5 years of hell. Riddle me that one, society.
It's like, what the heck? And it's such a like growth stunter to tell people that, like, because most people know when you go into a new season of like, finishing a course or starting in a new job that's going to expand you or whatever, that it is, most people understand that it's going to be complicated and hard and a transition, but don't put a time frame around it. Like, I think in some ways that's a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you get like 2 years in and you're like, 3 more to go. and you're just like counting down like it's suddenly going to be fine when it switches over. It's like, I just don't know. I think we make the path really hard, that perhaps you just have to like think differently about how you manage a difficult career path that's less vocational than lots of others, but totally possible if you actually, zone out some of the, tune out some of these phrases that are on every training program. I feel like anyone I've met is like, oh, it's fine, because I'm still in those 5 years. And I'm like, everyone knows about this. These 5
it's like
years.
the unspoken rule. Stop
it's nuts. It makes no sense. And also, like, the biggest thing we're taught in our training programs is to like explore and like work through things and seasons and things that come up for us. And that actually there's a lot of goodness to come out of being in challenging situations or growing situations. And I think sometimes what could be like a really good opportunity to learn more about what we like and where we want to go in our careers is just overshadowed by this like competition and fear. And I think it stunts people massively. And it doesn't, I think the moment that you realize that you have complete control over whether you listen to that or not is a game changer.
Totally. I think my brain is going in like 50 different directions right now.
Yeah, me too. I feel a bit scatty.
I know.
Like a bit like there's so many things I want to like talk about.
I feel like right now I'm like that meme, the conspiracy theory one with like Charlie, and he's like,
oh yeah,
trying to connect the dots and like the cigarettes. I'm like,
literally.
Okay, listeners and viewers, try and follow along.
Yeah, literally.
Like I found
just one step.
So like maybe you can talk about like your time like within a company, because like mine has been very different, and like I've found that the system is very broken. But also, I wrote something. What did I say? It was like they're like what I found around the message of like, you need to be jaded. You need to be jaded. You need to be jaded. Like for a long time, it really cut down my self-esteem of like, maybe I am doing this wrong. Like maybe I am in the wrong field. Maybe I am too like optimistic. Maybe I am too like hopeful for clients and for a company and whatever. And like that has been a theme that's come up for me like over several jobs or like internships is just like this theme. And I was really sitting and reflecting with it. And I'm like, that's not like what I want people to take away from this. Like I do, in my core, I do not believe that you need to be jaded to work in these fields. However, I believe that you need to be, you need to have healthy boundaries. You need to be aware that the system's broken and not put so much trust that the system is perfect and it's always going to be there for you. I think that was my downfall. That was like my part of being naive was that the system is there. The system's going to take care of you. Your superiors are there in your best interest. But the reality of that is that they are so burnt out. They have their own stuff going on that they can barely show up for themselves. And so like, I would encourage people to not lose that spark that you have and the passion that you have. And if you feel like you're losing that and you are becoming resentful or jaded, get out, like get the hell out. We do not need more mental health practitioners that are like just cold and there to do a job and nothing else. Cause no, how is that helpful for anyone?
No, totally. And I think that, that really links to my experience because I've spent lots of time in organizations. So I haven't done private practice, as you know. So yeah, it's really good how opposites kind of our journeys have been. So for me, a really helpful way, it's the beauty of being in therapy while you're training is you get to learn more about yourself, right? And I learned some of the things that really excite me and that keep me engaged in stuff. But I also learned that it's a bit of a like, I don't know how else to put it, but I am like a workaholic. I like to work. I get a lot of satisfaction from working. So how to like keep yourself engaged and keep myself well and boundaried was like something I had to learn. So being in organizations was really good for me because there was hours around it and there was expectations and like, you know, KPI, like key performance indicators that we had to like match, and I had to measure things and report back. And there was always time boundaries around that. So that was really, really good for me coming straight out of uni. I think if I'd gone straight into private practice, I could have just, I mean, it's not recommended you do that anyway a lot of the time, but if I went straight into kind of building the business or whatever, I think that would have been a recipe for disaster. So being in organizations was really good. And I, as I said before, I know I love group work and I love growing like new opportunities for people to connect with creativity and well-being activities and spaces. So I got a job when I was in Australia just after I met you, doing that kind of work for a charity out there, where I could have my art. They let me have my art therapy group, and they were a bit resistant to it a little at first. But I really think good thing I learned was just getting down on paper how something can be helpful, putting some like research or some evidence to it. And then instead of going with the question, can I run this? It's going with the question to your superiors, like, I think this should run, and this is why it would be helpful. So don't be afraid to be confident in the fact that we're trained in something and we have skills. So I think that was what my supervisor said to us. I had a really good supervisor in my last year of uni, like amazing. And she spoke that over us so much. She was like, you have skills. Like, don't go in being like, we can save the world, because that's just cocky and untrue. But, go in but don't just say it because you should believe me because I'm saying it confidently. Like, here's the evidence. So that time in organizations really helped me as well, like put program like packs together and like introduction, what it's going to look like, who it's going to serve, how I'm going to measure it. And that's just really helped me, again, keeping a boundary around something, but also helping people buy into it, so that then even when I wasn't employed as an art therapist, I was getting that itch scratched because I had my group. I could see that it was helpful for that client group. And also I had other creative spaces and other well-being activities and connections with other charities where we could bring more services. And it was always fed by what the clients in that charity wanted and what they needed. And luckily for me, they wanted an art space that was therapeutic. So that was perfect. The one thing I would say if you go into organizational work is being open to the fact that some people and some client groups won't want they won't want that. So there's always, you have to be led by them too. So there's the risk of them not really wanting to do creative stuff, and then you have to respect that and find other things that are going to support them. But usually if you're working with a charity with a lot of people, like some people will want creative stuff and a range of other things. And you just have to, I don't mind doing other things and other types of wellbeing activity. It's up to, it depends. I think that's where we are, where art therapists can be quite split. If some of us are happy to do wider wellbeing work, that can help so much because there's so many opportunities out there for that kind of thing. But that's kind of my journey, really. I've had a few jobs in organizations, some in program activities, some as an art therapist. And I think the biggest thing I've learned one of the biggest things through that journey of doing a few different jobs and then growing the business is that don't worry about trying things out and not doing them for, like you say, for years and years and years. Try something out. If you decide along the journey that it's not working for you, just working with your supervisor and your manager to have healthy and appropriate endings. Like, don't be irresponsible and try a new thing every week, but don't be afraid, because I've done a few jobs now in one-to-one work. And I know that's not I don't think that's for me, not as my full-time space. I love groups. I like managing and running teams. I like looking after people and growing people's potential. But I don't really like doing the one-to-one therapy back to back in a day. And I know that now from having a few jobs and doing it and trying it and responsibly ending and closing it. So don't be, I think that's what I'm trying to say. Like, don't be afraid to broaden out and try, and just keep a check on yourself with how you're moving through these spaces, because it's like when you learning to drive and then getting to the point where you can do it, and knowing that when you pass your test will be when you like really actually learn how to be on the roads. And I think coming out of uni, once you get into work, you have a certain understanding of what you liked at uni, but now you're in the real world and it's different. But you don't have to be jaded about it. It's just an exploration period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think the best thing I did at university was that I took an internship that was so far out of my depth and so far out of what I ever imagined for myself. And it was just kind of handed to me. Like, it just happened very unexpectedly. Like I was very stuck on like children's and I was like, I love working at Children's Hospital, but like I volunteered there. So like that got my need met. But
Yeah.
my friend's husband was a head charge nurse at a psychiatric hospital. And he's like, we have an awesome supervisor. You should come here. And I was like, oh God, I'm so scared.
Yeah.
Like I've never, ever thought of doing anything like this. Like I know nothing about psych, especially psych in the States is very different from Canadian psych.
Right.
And then it was the best thing I ever did. Like the best thing. And like to take that risk while I had supervision at school and site supervision was like the best thing I could have ever done. Because I was so held while taking that risk.
Yeah, because that's worth considering, isn't it? When you come out of uni, that like that's different. You know, you don't have that same level of like support, and it's, but definitely keep yourself in therapy if you need to, or you know, obviously you'll have a supervisor in your job, or if not, you have to pay for one or whatever. Oh, breaking the equipment. So yeah, I think that really helped. I think I felt a bit guilty at first around kind of figuring out where I was best placed or where I was going to end up being the most useful. And actually, if you go through that in a respectful way, you really figure out what you need and what you want.
Why do you think you're feeling guilty about that?
I think I did for many years, because I think there's this narrative that comes from just kind of older generations, I think, or maybe not that anyone particularly has spoken it massively over me, but this idea that you have to sort of be somewhere for a really long time and you can't jump around, you can't try, you have to just know and do. And I think in our profession, like the whole process of like of learning and being in therapy and then being a therapist is that you're just constantly in this awareness space of learning, like not awareness, but this space of learning to be more aware of who you are, I guess, and noticing things and not wanting to be in an environment that makes you sick or unwell, or like you were saying before, like you're in a space and you're like, this isn't working, but I can't leave it because there's no other jobs and everyone told me to stay in a job and only leave if you have another one lined up. And that's just not the reality of art therapy work, is it?
It was so bad. Like, thank God I was in therapy at that time, because that night I went home and my therapist was like, what are you doing? Like, let's just take a minute and look at what you're doing. Like, you are not well. And I was like, but I need to stay. And she's like, no, you need to leave like today. And I was like, but I can just finish out the week. And she was like, you're not going to make it the week. Like,
literally.
What is happening?
It's like that's the other good thing about having people that you know along the journey, like to talk to. Like, we've always been able to check in, because sometimes you just need someone to reflect to you, like, you're not good. Like, you're not, or like big you up when something's going really well, when you just think it's every day. And it's like, no, you're really finding your stride here. This is exciting. Like, I want to see where this goes for you. Having people sort of invest in your journey a bit. So if you've got some good friends at uni, like I didn't keep like tons of contacts from my course, but a couple of people that I do check in with, especially like one in particular, one of my friends, we've stayed really close all this time, and we're really a part of each other's art therapy journeys. And it's good. It's really helpful to have someone from this exact same time and space that you were learning. It's great to have people from other courses too, but really helpful, I think, from someone from your actual program, where you can be like, oh, do you remember when they told us that and it's just been so different? Or actually, do you remember that thing about, I think this would help you. Do you remember when we did that course about blah, blah, blah? And just, I think having people ahead of you, but also who were with you, like alongside you, being able to talk about things is really helpful. But it's wild. But I just think it's been interesting recently that I've done some like training. I did some training programs for like creative facilitators in the city. And quite a few of them are sort of curious about art therapy and asking about it. And so many of the questions that people have asked, even before even doing the course, is just, like, what's the other side of it like? And what's the reality of it like on the other side? It's just been actually I've had that conversation a few times in the last few weeks, and we're only, a few years out ourselves, but just this idea that there's such a fear about going into it because the survival on the other side just feels like the rates, survival rate seems really low. And lots of people just asking, will I get a job? Or is this something, what does it actually do? Can I just be, the best one I had recently was, are there like courses where I can just like do a bit of art in my counseling space or in my psychology space? And I'm like trying to help people understand there's ways in which it can be used that's safe here. But if this is happening and it needs someone more qualified, it needs to happen. I think the training's really important for that. And just like, I think the idea of like getting into this big course and all of this commitment of therapy is a lot for people. Even people as we're doing it, it's a lot, right? And then on the other side, then figuring out actually how it's going to fit in your life and become something that is good and healthy and boundaried is quite a big task. I feel like we're jamming so much into this conversation, but actually I think for me the biggest thing is being able to come out the other side and take a bit of time to see how it lands. Like there's no rush. There's this pressure, I think, to be like head of like Band 8 in the NHS art therapy, manager of a whole region. And it's like, that's the only time that you've succeeded. And it feels like we're all aiming for that, which is a bit wrong, I think.
So like in the States, I can understand like the bit of rush because so like when you graduate, I think you have 6 years to get your counseling hours and certification and exam. But the so there's 2 streams because I graduated from a dual program, right? So the art therapy side, though, is unlimited. You can, like me as a Canadian, I can go and write that exam whenever. So I could take 20 years to fill my hours and go write that exam. But if I was living in the States to get the counseling side, I only have 6 years. And you need that
and you have
in order
to like...
Yeah, you need that in order to like bill your clients and have insurance.
Right. So you can do that as quickly as you want, but until you've done that, you can't charge anyone?
I think it's a lot more difficult private practice. In the States, it's different because it's all like their insurance is so different than ours.
Right. Okay. That's wild.
I think you have to be like under someone until, and like my friend, he's only making $30 a client right now because he's not licensed. And I was like, what? Like, I'm not a like fully licensed art therapist, but like I'm on my way of getting those hours and getting the supervision. But like my counseling board here is very different and I can still be private practice. Like I'm a registered counselor and I can still charge whatever I want.
Whoa. Yeah. That's so wild to me because we just like when we qualified from the masters, we're like good to go. Although we like are not recommended to go into private practice for like a few years just so you've got some experience. But like quite a few supervisors have said, people are very split on their opinions of that actually. But to be honest, I didn't mind having a bit of time just to kind of explore. But yeah, I've got no pressure on my back, but that's quite a different experience. That's pretty wild. So do you like ever find yourself, do you have many art therapists like in Canada that you are like at a similar stage of the journey to you or how do you like
not
find
really
that?
Like I do have one supervisor who went to the States and then I have my mentor who also went to the States, but everyone else went to school here. So like their hours are like, I'm also accumulating the Canadian credentialing hours and the American ones.
Right.
So they like kind of get it, but it's not the same.
It's just like, sorry, 30 odd minutes in and I am like just sitting here being like, this is so much. Like doing this process is a lot. I feel like we just need to, anyone that's listening who is on the process or has completed it, congratulations for making it this far.
You did it.
It's just like so much effort, isn't it?
Oh, I actually had this lady call me a couple weeks ago and she just like wanted information about like what the process is like. And I had to laugh. She was like, you're really excited about it. Like you are genuinely excited about it. She's like, I talked to
Yeah.
another art therapist and it was kind of like, wah, 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 like the like
Yeah.
Peanuts like teacher, wah, 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 wah,
Yep.
wah.
Yep.
Just like, well, this is tough. This is hard. You're gonna
Yeah.
have a problem with this. And she's like, it's actually really like refreshing hearing someone who's excited, even though it is difficult.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I didn't even think about it. Like, I'm just so passionate about it. I think that overrides like the work. And I've been like that for a long time. Like, I even found that in grad school because like I had to work so much harder. Like, I worked so hard to be in the States. And I just found that like my laser focus, like attention to like, I know in my soul, this is my passion. Like nothing,
Wow.
like, yeah, it's hard, but then I'm like, whatever, you just do it. But I think I've also had like a lot of experience in my life to get through the fear of that and push through that. And like,
That's amazing.
yeah. So if you can push through that and just like really focus on how it feels in your body, and if it's like that strong knowing that this is where you're meant to be,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's hard, but like, what isn't hard in life right now, especially right now?
True. Yeah. It's so interesting that yeah, recently, same for me. So many people have been, I think, because at the moment, a lot of people are assessing their careers. I think that's a big thing. Just after, as they call it in Liverpool, the COVID. It's like, sorry, I just love that. I actually started saying that normally now. And like my mum was laughing and I was like, oh, I didn't even mean that ironically. Like I've been calling it the COVID. I think it's in Liverpool, like I can say I'm actually from Liverpool. I don't sound like it, but I am from here. And a lot of things have the in front of it. And like some of them I say like completely, like that's how my mum's always said it. So I just do, but now it's the COVID. The Asda is one of them. Yeah, the Asda. I say that I actually have always just said that because that's what like.
Is that
my
like a
family always
grocery
said.
store or something?
Yeah, but it's called Asda. But like in Liverpool, we call it the Asda. Yeah. And like if someone said just Asda now, I'd be like, can you speak? Where are you from? And they're like, oh, I'm from the Wirral. I'm like, case closed. Nah, I'm just kidding. Just kidding, Wirral listeners. But yeah, so where was I going with that? Yeah, since the COVID, everyone's been assessing a lot of these things. And I think that's why loads of people have been reaching out. And it's been a lot of people I've noticed who are in like educational psychology.
Yeah.
And they're like, what kind of, they've got a creative, like, you know, bone in their body, and they want to sort of think about what it might look like to go down that path as opposed to something different. And it's just really, I've been having this conversation so much, and I felt definitely, depends on the questions people are asking, but sometimes I felt really able to be like positive and excited and upbeat. But then other times I found it a bit harder, and I think it depends so much on the questions. And some people ask about, I think as well, it depends on your things that you love. So if people ask me about creativity in prisons, that's easier for me to talk about than anything else.
So when I turned my phone off this weekend, I was able just to like tap into my own shit that's going on, like obviously. But what I realized is that like what came up for me is also what my clients are going through. And I think it's because like my unhealed crap that's there is what's attracting people into me. And so they're also holding space for very similar things. And so the information I learned was sitting with my own stuff. I now have more information and a different lens to hold space for my clients without making it about me, but just being curious about what's going on for them, like these major themes.
Listening to that, I think having some space in the busyness of it all to like be unplugged. And I think the best way, to get in touch with your instincts, isn't it, is to actually spend a bit of time at figuring out what they are. It can be a bit discombobulating, can't it?
Yeah.
This whole process. But yeah. Do you want to look at some art?
But before we do that, I have like kind of an overview, like a summary of everything we talked about. And it's funny, I was just like quickly scanning it. And I think we're pretty spot on. I think we actually stayed within our parameters of the show today.
Did we actually?
I think we might have. I was like, this is hilarious. We never do.
I feel so easily I'm so easily on a tangent in every conversation I have in my life.
Me too. And it's so hard to stay within an hour.
People ask me like, oh, what day is it? And then suddenly we're talking about like, I don't even know, just insane stuff. I know. I'm amazed that we did that.
I know. I'm shocked.
And scene. Let's go
So,
home.
so we talked about like the major, like the common phrases that we've heard
Yep.
graduating. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then so things to do and know post grad. And then I also put the big sister advice. Like I feel like this show is very much like us big sisters, like talking to our like younger sister and brothers about what's going on. So like just a couple like really basic things that I found like that I'm giving kind of advice to people like when they come talk to me about art therapy is like get a LinkedIn. Add all the art therapists you can, even if you don't use it. Just have that as like a little bubble of resources. Network, connect, and talk about art therapy and all things. Literally, the dentist, the florist, the grocery person, wherever. Talk about it. You never know who needs it or who wants to know more about it.
That is such a good point because, and I was literally saying this to someone today, if you start to develop your lane or understanding, especially your lane within art therapy as well, like getting known as the person that does that is so useful. I mean, it depends on where you live, but most cities, like once you get enough people in that area know that you're the person that does that thing. And that's like been prisons for me and like creating art programs for me. And Liverpool's definitely a city where people are like quite connected. And I think it just seems to have like helped being that person, even just for, not even for gain for you, but so someone who knows that they want to go into that knows to come and ask you about it. And it's not that you're an expert, it's just that you have a passion in that area and you like, you'll probably be up for talking about it. So yeah, that's a really good point actually. Just, yeah.
My friend
definitely.
got her internship by talking to her dentist who knew like a system that needed an art therapist. Like
it's the truth. Just
literally.
like if someone asks you what you do, just like tell them or.
Oh, and the other thing about LinkedIn, when I moved back and I literally knew no one in art therapy, I would just message people on LinkedIn and ask if they could go for coffee. And I'd buy them a coffee and talk about art therapy.
Yeah.
It's
that's a bold move, but it will. One
it.
of them will be useful. Yeah, just do it. People love getting bought coffee.
Oh my God.
Everyone loves a latte.
Oh, totally. So a big theme I think that you were talking about earlier was like, stop giving your power away.
Ooh.
Like when you're new in this field, hold your power. Do not give your power away. It is like the best currency that you can have. So like when you're saying like, go into these jobs and be like, this is what I think is going to work. This is what we're going to do. We're going to try this. Hold your power. Stop giving it away. Be the expert. Like step into that. Work your way up, but never settle.
Yeah. I think one of the best phrases my dad ever told me when I was young about like being in a workplace is you're never too big to make someone a cup of tea. And so just like work your way up and pay your dues. But like, even when you like are working up, like do the stuff. Yeah. Just do the stuff that you would do at any level. Like don't become like, once you get to a position where you're feeling more confident or more established, like remembering the journey underneath it. And not like losing sight of that.
Just because, sorry.
No, go on. No,
just
please.
because you're entry level doesn't mean you're a doormat. Like you don't deserve to be treated that way.
You have skills. And like, I think some of the best managers I've ever had are the people that are like, okay, I have this, that, and the other that I can teach you, but you actually have this thing that I really want to learn more about, or I want to cultivate in you. And like people that speak it, and they're not everywhere, but they do exist. So just, remember, I think I'm trying to remember that now as like starting to like look after some teams in some other roles. And it's like, how do you remember those people that really did speak into you? And how did you learn how to hold your own against the people that are a bit more dismissive and who aren't as keen as kind of to grow teams or to grow people? Yeah, you're not a waste. Like you're there, you have skills and training and lots to offer. As part of a wider system where everyone's got something to contribute.
Totally.
Like, that's why you've been hired. Even if you were working in an honorary contract, which I pray there shouldn't be that many of them going forward. There should be employed jobs, but you're still an art therapist and you still are bringing something to those clients' lives that is valuable. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
Find a supervisor or mentor ASAP.
ASAP. You cannot
Like
do not
first
do it
thing you do
without
out the
them.
gate, get a good one.
Yep. Yeah. Even if you have to pay for it, just bite the bullet.
Just do it. Yeah, just do it. Anyways, it counts towards your hours anyways. Like just do it. But sooner the
Just do
better.
it. Yeah.
People are super triggered by hopeful people, so do not give your magic away ever. Find your people and find your corner.
Can you explain that first bit a little bit?
So what I've found is that because systems, there's like, I know in Canada, systems are very tired and exhausted, and especially like the trickle down effect from the government. And so I've found that by working in systems, like when you show up in your magic, in your authenticity, in like your total power, it can be super triggering to people.
Sure. Okay, I get you. Yeah.
At any level. So just don't give your magic away. Don't listen to it. Find your people within that system and find your corner. Is my sisterly advice.
I love that. It links really well to the supervisor thing too, because they will keep you like hopeful and passionate because you've got a cheerleader. Like it's not just a place for managing clinical things and understanding like it's definitely to support your clients, but it's also to support you and like keep you feeling good about things. And like, yeah, it's helped me so much, like figure out the reason that certain things haven't fit well or certain things have fit really well, and like how to see the positive in how some things don't work out, but like not toxic positivity, like just genuine like cheerleading and looking after you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good list.
Take your holidays, take your sick days.
Oh my gosh, that's so triggering for me because it's like my worst quality ever.
Show up
to like
for
actually
you
do that.
and don't be a hero.
This is really confronting.
I was the same way. But then like they guilt you into it. They're like, oh, you have 3 weeks holiday, but you can't take all of it at one time. You need to take like one day at a time.
It's like the truth. It's a very easy trap to suddenly be like the savior of like, I can't leave clients, or I can't do this, or I can't. Yes, you can. You have to be well.
Even in private practice, like this is one thing I'm like finding really hard.
Yeah,
is taking a holiday. I'm like, I gotta hustle. I gotta get my clients. I gotta make my money.
Flipping heck, you're not wrong.
No.
Yeah, we're learning today too. We're listening to all of this.
This is why it's our list.
Literally. Oh, yikes.
Okay, and the last one I have on here is be prepared to promote our work, like in the field of art therapy.
Yep.
Have your elevator speech on hand and a few resources. That's it. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Don't burn out over advocacy.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So containers.
Like,
containers.
It's like when people ask you something that they could Google, and it's like, you know what? Not just about art therapy, but just generally. And it's like, I will start you off, but you need to do some of your own research here because I can't teach you everything about this because I'm tired and 50 other people are asking me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just do your elevator speech, couple resources, boom, that's it. Get out.
Yeah. That's a really good list. That's really helpful.
Okay. I kind of figured that we were going to go like, whoa. So I was like, let's contain that over here.
That was really good, actually.
Yes.
I think, do you want to look at some artwork?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to go or shall I go?
Go for it.
Okay. I'm ready. This is a piece I made a while ago and I've come back to it a few times. I'm trying like not to show the other page because it's like a bit pry. It's nothing weird. It's just some private stuff. Where am I? Here. Let me go. Yeah. Let me hold it like this. There we go. So it's like a path where the road has been taken out and just moved down. So I made this a while ago and I was looking through my book today and I was making some other stuff. And then I came back to this and I was just like, that's it. It's this journey for me coming out of the masters that felt like the picture was together, like the road and the background was all one thing. And then over time, I felt like it just separated out because things weren't fully connected. And you've just got to it's a journey, I think, of finding how that fits back in. And that's what I felt like post-graduation has been for me. Like I felt I had this full image that has just widened And now I'm starting to like slowly figure out how it fits, like a really easy jigsaw that's really like, but there's like a magnetized resistance in it or something that's like stopping you doing it quickly. And it's not to say that some people's experience might be really quick and they might find the perfect job straight away, and that's awesome. It does happen. You know, a couple of my colleagues have had it that way. But my journey has not been that. It has been very much going in thinking this was how it was going to be, and then realizing loads of stuff about myself and my preferences and what client groups work well for me and what client groups I work well for. And I'm just slowly like finding a way to bring that path back into its sort of slot. And I was just looking at it earlier and I was like, that's it.
Wow. And that's funny because for me, it's about what can fit in there. What is going to be my part? What can I bring into that piece instead of reconnecting it? How am I going to fill up that blank space with my uniqueness, my Jenness, to fill in that, to bring that connection back together?
Yeah, because the program is so much, isn't it, about equipping you with the skills and the theory in a broader way. And you're also doing some self-investigation, obviously, but then afterwards, like you do the investigation of the work and what it's like in different environments and where you're kind of going to end up or what trajectory you're going to take. 'Cause it's so vast. And sort of finding, I think it's also something about that, like having a path of sort of finding you in the really kind of obvious clunky way, but it still sort of fits, this sort of finding the direction. And it seems like obvious if you look at that road that it's going to wind around, but actually like when you get on it, it's a bit like less obvious. But yeah.
Powerful. That's what I love about this is like, it's so simple, yet holds so much power. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is my art this week. Ignore the show notes. Oh. I guess it's the same.
We're both like hiding our background. Wow. Okay.
So what I was thinking when I started creating was like, in this kind of container of grad school, it's really messy and all over, but it's like, it's held. Like I felt that way anyways. It's just kind of all over and it's experimenting with different colors and directions and whatever. And then as I kind of got out, it felt like there was these very like strict kind of rules around like how I should be, how I shouldn't be.
Right.
And then I found that was like limiting the growth.
Well,
But then once I was able to kind of move through that into like this more fluid container. So like the first one's like very rigid and structured, but then the next circle around that is like watercolor and flowy and it's like more permeable. And then once I could get through that, it just felt like so much brighter and so much more space to like breathe around here. And so it just felt, it just feels like it doesn't have to be this solid container here. It can be a container that feels safe, but still so much space to take up on the outside.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I was looking at that and I was like, the outside seems like wide open ocean or something. Like it's just you, and that's like beautiful, but can also like can turn really quickly. And like it made me feel both of those things, like free and also like not like too like, but too much free was like a bit worrying. Last when you were talking, then I was just thinking like freedom is good, but like there's so many possibilities out there. That's actually quite a lot. And then my mind's still whirring a bit. Like, can I look at it again?
Yeah.
Thank you. I feel like it's funny as well because yellow is like a really comforting color to me. So there's something about that.
If I turn down this because it's quite washed out right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it'd be quite hard to get from that center bit into the outside bit. Like if you it feels like you could be really stuck in the middle of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool. I feel like I love it when I look back at the YouTubes where you see the pictures alongside
I
each other.
I know. Jacob, you do such a great job of that.
Yeah, because I feel like there's something about both of the images. I'm looking at mine and thinking of yours, that there's like two distinct kind of bits to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like yours is inside, like one piece is inside a larger piece, and mine's like two pieces that are sort of separated from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Something quite, something about that, like in my head is like they're speaking to each other a bit.
Okay, yeah.
I like it when art does that. I know, I always say even in collage workshops where it's not like an art therapy space at all, I'm like, some pictures just speak to each other. They do.
Yeah.
And like, I don't care how hipster that sounds. It's the truth. They do. They whisper. Something about, yeah, because our styles are very different too. So when they
Totally
feel connected, I love that. The power of making art. That's what I tell people all the time. When they're like, what about art therapy? I'm like, do you make art? And they're like, not really. I'm like,
I know.
That's where you should start. Like make some artwork just like for the sake, just do it regularly.
Yeah.
That's probably like,
Agreed.
we forgot to even say that. Make loads of art.
Just do it. That's a part of the list. Do it. Do it. Do it.
Yeah. Do it.
Even if you're not an art therapist, do it.
That's it. I think as well, like as much as these conversations are happening loads recently, and I never quite know if you've been helpful or not when you kind of give someone an overview, but most people seem to think it's quite helpful to have someone who's done it to talk to. So I think if people listen to this and still have a million questions, they can just get in touch and
please,
we'll try our best.
Get in touch. That'd be awesome. Yeah. So I don't know if we've mentioned that we're doing seasons like with the show.
Oh no, maybe give a little overview of that.
Yeah, so we've decided we're going to do 6 episodes. So just to give everyone a heads up, next show is our
number
6th show.
That's it. Oh my gosh, that's exciting.
I know, it's so exciting.
Bro.
Yeah.
So that'll be the next one. Subject to be confirmed, and then we will. Well, we know, but
I was also thinking too, it might be really cool, even just like on our Instagram, to post all of our artwork together for like kind of the season finale. Because like, cool. You know how there's like information and sequential art. I'm just like really curious how it would all look together. So I could put together like a little collage of all of our art. You know,
that'd be amazing. Yeah, really cool.
And just see like how we've progressed over the last 6 episodes.
Definitely, that's exciting. Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
So cool.
Amazing.
Okay. Well, I wish we could stay and talk more. I just want to keep talking about art therapy.
I know this feels like one of those ones where an hour's not enough, but hey,
I know.
We're here.
Our viewers
are
going to
let you get on with your life.
Wrap it up. Let's go.
Yeah, circle back. But yeah, no, thank you so much for everything you shared, Jen.
Yeah, you too.
Amazing. And we'll be back soon.
Trust the process.
Just give it a trust. You might as well.
Okay, bye.
LOL.
Bye.